Buffalo's got a bright future and an unforgettable past. Buffalo's got Del and Matt on the Talkin' Proudcast. Tune in so you can hear philanthropists and volunteers, good people who live and work in the biggest city in Western New York.
Thank you very much, Ed, for joining us. We really appreciate you taking the time. We know that you get up very early in the morning to do what you do, and you're probably due for an early bird dinner and bed probably pretty soon. So
soon enough, right?
Exactly. Well, anyway, so we'll kind of jump right into it. We know what you do. We know that you're an anchor and reporter. I guess you're pretty much a jack of all trades when it comes to broadcasting and news in Western New York. So everybody that we've talked to and everybody that we're going to talk to, we're going to ask the same question to start with. And What is it that you are doing differently now by necessity to do your job, and how are you accomplishing that, and how's that affecting the way you do it?
Yeah, everything is different right now. And it really wasn't like this to start. So all of us, in the newsroom, we're all together all day long. So, even from start to finish. And then we do it again every single day. So there are usually about 25 or 30 people in the newsroom on any given day. And right now, as it stands, I think there might be 3 in the morning, and it dwindles from there. There aren't a lot of people. It might be hyperbole that there are only 3 people in the newsroom. There might be 5, there might be 6. But the reality is just that there are a few people there right now to kind of keep everyone safe and healthy. So many of us are working from home. Our producers are working from home. Our anchors are working from home. Our reporters are working from home. Our photographers are working from home. Everyone has their equipment with them. We all have our own in-home studios set up. My living room is literally a studio right now. So we're sitting on the couch at night watching TV, and I'm looking at my studio setup. So it gets to the point where, work and life kind of intermingle at this point. But so be it, because we have a really important job to do, and it's all about keeping people safe, updated, and knowledgeable, kind of making sure we're making sure people have the facts, know what's going on, know what we're facing, know what other people are up against, and how it's affecting all of us. And I think that's really the most important job that we have as journalists right now.
Yeah, and just to build off of that, I think there's a new reality on deck for everybody when this all finally ends, which is a weird word to say because I don't think it's ever going to really end. There's going to be a lot of changes, but for you specifically, or people in your position, how much of what you're doing now do you think is going to carry over into the next phase of reality, and how much do you think it'll go back to how it used to be? Yeah,
it's a really good question, Del. I think the reality is that many newsrooms are seeing what we can do now. And what does that mean? We are not necessarily all together in the studio. We're not necessarily all together in the newsroom. And for a while, that might be the case, even when this thing might end, if it goes back to normal. Because I think people are going to be weary, in a sense, of being all together again in a large gathering. So what does that look like in the future? I don't know. But do I think that more people are going to be working from home after this? I think it could be a possibility. And I think that a lot of people are seeing that, it's easier for them to kind of work from home and maybe perhaps have a better work-life balance. On the other hand, it might not be as easy for people to work from home because, like me, it's kind of like everything is just meshed at this point. So I look forward to going to work every day, and I look forward to seeing the people in my newsroom, and I look forward to seeing the people I work with, because I need that social aspect of my job.
I never realized how much this is what's going to happen. We talk over each other. This is another thing that happens when you
do it.
Well, and I've actually noticed that's a good point. You do a lot of you're talking to Aaron, you're talking to Katie, and you're all in separate locations.
Yeah.
How do you, and I know this works really well for radio people, but because you're not in the same place, do you have to plan out when to stop talking just in case somebody else is going to start talking after that? Is that something you think about?
You know what? We've kind of just left it to, I'll start over here. We've kind of left it to be as organic as possible, because that's just the best way for us to interact. And neither Katie nor I really like being, cued, like, okay, stop talking now or start here. We just want to pick it up and go. And we know that people understand that we're all home, we're all in different places, and there's going to be a delay just because of the technology. But we'd rather have it that way instead of having to like step on each other and not really hear what the other is saying. Yeah, I mean, we're all really good friends. Like Katie, Aaron, and I are tight. We're really close. And it's hard not being with them every single day. Like Katie, you guys know from being in the studio with us from time to time, Katie and I will just talk through everything up until the very last moment because both of us have a lot to say. But the reality is that this is hard on everyone, and it's causing, a lot of strain, I think, on relationships as well.
It's my turn.
Now it's your turn.
No, I know what you mean though about friendships because I've really enjoyed in a lot of ways working from home. Like selfishly, I've kind of settled into this morning routine where I come downstairs, I have my bowl of cereal, I make my coffee, I sit down in my makeshift little corner of the dining room office setup that I have, and I kind of jump into it. And I'm realizing that there's a lot of things that I could have always been doing differently, and just in terms of my workflow, that maybe I didn't have to do in the past, or maybe I could have done differently. But at the same time, I really miss, my employees. I really miss Josh and Nick and Caitlin, to the point now, like whenever and Dan, who, I see him once a week, but I miss them, and so like to the point where I start starting to understand Zoom and FaceTime whenever, because it's just good to like see people's faces, you know what I mean, and just connect a little bit on that relationship level.
Definitely. And I think I was reading something today that, there's a thing called Zoom fatigue now because everyone's just using Zoom more often to either connect with their friends or have a chat with a large group of people and kind of have some normalcy. Video conferencing and teleconferencing and WebEx has always been a thing, but the fact that it's available for us now is awesome. But I would really hope that many people realize the importance of being together as a team and the collaboration and just the ideas that come from working together, all together instead of virtually.
Mm-hmm.
One of the tricks that I've actually learned to keep Zoom fatigue at a minimum is during the course of the presentations and the meetings and all the different things I just sort of randomly change my background. So like, and it just sort of makes people smile. So exactly. So
I think
like,
I had that as a background for a school photo in like 1986. Maybe.
Of course you did.
That's what I was going for. I should be
the only one there.
I needed like a faded version of my face next to me, looking down, smiling. But yeah, it's a very good point. So, and actually that's, it takes us into an interesting question that I wanted to ask. How is that affecting because of what you do and because of where you are, and I know your home, how is it affecting those relationships? And then how is that affecting those relationships because of there's some heavy things that you're dealing with on a regular basis too?
So a couple of weeks ago, I spent 2 weeks at home because I had come in contact with somebody who had tested positive for coronavirus. And despite the fact that they had tested positive weeks after I had seen them, out of an abundance of caution, the company asked me to work from home. And it's fine. I mean, I was a little rattled because, I knew that I was healthy and I knew that I had a job to do, but then realized that it wasn't about me, that it was about everyone else. So I think that was one thing checked off my list. Week 1 was fine. And, I changed things around and, did all I could and was really trying to make sure that I was involved in the newsroom and the day-to-day to, for me, that was a big deal. I wanted to be involved and still be involved as I am on a normal basis, but then realized quickly that I couldn't be because it's so much harder and it puts so much more pressure on you, I think, than there needed to be. So another thing crossed off my list. So week 2 came around, and I think that in this quarantine that we were all in, and it wasn't like I couldn't go outside. It wasn't like I couldn't go to the supermarket. I still could. I made sure that I called the health department. I made sure I, dotted my I's and crossed my T's. But I just couldn't go to work. And that, I feel like, has defined who I am for the last 12 years of my career. Realizing, though, that I'm defined by more than just career was kind of the next thing crossed off my list in week 2 of quarantine. So I think it hit me, though, in the middle of that second week, the gravity of what we were reporting on. And what do I mean by that? That was the week where 800 people died from coronavirus in New York State in a single day. And even thinking about that just now gives me chills, because when you hear that from the governor and then have to come out and reiterate that after that hour-long press conference, you don't necessarily have time to process. But when you have the time after that, it's stunning. And it breaks you down a little bit, right? I mean, these are people, these are families that are now suffering, friends who are losing a loved one, people with jobs, people with real lives. I mean, and it's not just old and elderly, it's young people, older people, middle-aged people. And, you think of your parents, you think of the people who are around you, your friends, your family. My sister's a nurse. I think of her. It breaks you down. And then kind of coming out of that, you have to focus on the light at the end of the tunnel. And to get back into the normal swing of things is really what was pulling me through.
So to kind of build off of some of the things that you were just relating, especially with like the death count and everything.
Yeah.
Is there a specific story during all of this that maybe has really impacted you more than others, or is there a set of stories, or is there something that you've learned or I guess something you've actually seen happen that you've had to report on that maybe once you had the time to process it, really like just you're always going to remember that like years from now when you're a big ABC News national
No, don't go.
anchor.
No.
You're gonna remember this time, and you're gonna look back and you're always gonna remember that one story.
Yeah. That was the moment, I think, when I had to report that 800 people died in a single day in New York. That was the biggest impact that something has ever had on me. Because we lived through so much, and we've all been through tragedy, but that's tragic. I think, though, that there were 2 stories that I did or have done in this whole process, and one was, there are 2 extremes. There's a 5-year-old girl living in Buffalo who has seen what's going on and decided to make paper masks, homemade masks to put over her dolls' faces. And I thought, okay, well, that's cute. But then when you really think about it, it's sad, because that's the reality of the world we're living in right now. And for a 5-year-old to kind of pick up on that and understand to a level of what's going on, the impact on these kids is going to be long lasting. So for me, that was really impactful. And even just hearing her mom talk about why it was important and how she wears a mask to go to work, she works in healthcare, and for the little girl to even explain to me that, she doesn't want her dolls to get sick, so she made them masks. I mean, that's serious. That's some serious heavy stuff. But then on the flip side, just recently I was inside the ICU at Millard Fillmore Suburban Hospital, and that will be something that I forever remember. And I described this walking everyone through a Facebook Live that I did on our page a couple of days ago. If you've ever been to Millard Fillmore Suburban Hospital, you walk down that really long, narrow hallway to get to the end, and that's where the ICU is. And you can see the ICU from the front door, but you can't even walk in the front door because they're stopping you to take your temperature, give you some hand sanitizer, and put a face mask on. So the whole process of getting even into the hospital is different. And then you walk into the ICU and it's just like, I didn't know where to look. There are people everywhere just mulling around, but with a definite purpose. They're all wearing face masks, and I was wondering why no one was wearing scrubs not scrubs, those gowns and, masks and other masks, those N95 masks. I mean, they don't need to because everyone's in an airtight room, right? I mean, they're behind glass doors, they're shut tight, there's tape over the windows, there are many people on ventilators. And when you look around and you see these people, I'm like getting, emotional about it. It's stunning, really. It's really stunning, and it's sad. And thank God we have these people who are skilled and able to handle this kind of case. I mean, these people have never been through something like this before, but these doctors and nurses, we are so lucky to have them in our community, and they're rising to the challenge. It's something I'll always remember.
Yeah, thanks for sharing that. That you're right, though. We are really we should all be grateful to the healthcare workers that are giving up their time and sanity to deal with this, and it's kind of frustrating. I don't want to make this a topic we really get into, but just a real quick pot shot, if I may. Is it the conspiracy theorists or the ultra the people that are so concerned about getting back to how it was? It's frustrating for me to see just when you hear stories like what you just related. It's a real call for patience. I feel like, which this culture of now that if there's ever been a culture in America that was not ready for patience, this is the one, because we get everything like that.
Right. And I'll tell you, Del, I'm not a patient person, and I think that is one thing that I've learned here is definite patience, because you can't control what's happening, right? And once you realize that it's out of your control and that there are things that you can control, like your patience, like your mindset, and how you view things, that's when you realize that you can start to take control back of your life.
Yeah, I think you nailed it. And I think that this is giving people an opportunity to see who people really are, and giving people an opportunity to really show their best.
Yeah.
And I've seen a lot of the best in people that some I didn't expect it from. And I'm pleasantly surprised.
You want to name names?
Well,
No, you don't have to.
But honestly, there's so many people out there doing such great things. And it's
Yeah.
funny how people have pivoted so quickly. I've been using the term pivot a lot because I work with a lot of like startup business community people, and we use pivot a lot. But people have really changed the way they do things. These gyms there's a gym that was just opening, Jada Blitz Fitness on Transit Road, not a paid sponsor yet, but they they built this like 20, 30, I don't even know how many thousand square foot facility. And they close within like, I don't even know, a month of opening. Right. And they're renting out their gym equipment, and they're doing videos, and they're staying positive and still doing classes and stuff online. And all these different places have changed the way they do things. And they're also sort of adding to what they're going to be doing in the future now. So maybe now you don't have to go into the gym for the classes. And things like that are super exciting. Well, I don't go to the gym for anything. I don't do anything at home either. But it's cool because you're really getting a chance to see people how intuitive. I'm sorry, not intuitive. Ingenuitive. When you have ingenuity.
Yeah.
Yeah, you really get to see people's ingenuity and people's that I might edit.
How pivoty they are.
But yeah, exactly. And people are being very creative. And there's also lots of people that are out there that needed recognition. Produce peddlers is another example, which I mentioned earlier, that has been dropping fresh produce on my porch. Once again, not a paid sponsor, not that I want them to be. But it's really cool that get to see how people are kind of coming together. It's a very small minority of people that, really want a haircut, and that's okay. I really want a haircut too, but I'm gonna grow the flow.
I was saying this morning that I think it's kind of like a playoff beard of sorts. Like my hair is just so long at this point, and it doesn't even matter. What am I going to do about it? Right? It's great.
I modeled my hairstyle sort of after you, except I had to shave my neck this morning. That's not why I'm wearing a bandana. I didn't cut my throat or anything like that. But
my hair is the longest it's been since 1995. I know it doesn't seem like long, but this is really long for me. I hate it.
It works for you, buddy.
Cat head and bed head.
Great.
So I'll take this conversation in a different direction. Where do you go as a news person? Where do you go for news? What do you trust? What do you listen to? What do you watch?
You know, I really have been watching the networks, and I just don't stick to one. You know, I wake up in the morning, and Good Morning America, of course, is, you know, it comes right after us. So Good Morning America is on right after. So that's what I watch primarily. But, you know, I watch the CBS Evening News. I watch NBC Nightly News, CNN, MSNBC, Fox. I mean, you have to really just read and watch everything. And I think you have to synthesize that information from each source, you know, and kind of put it together like a puzzle. And I think with some of the networks too, when we start to see panels, or when we start to see analysis instead of factual based reporting, it kind of gets skewed a little bit. So we're really sticking to the facts here. And that's really important right now. You know, this isn't a political situation. This isn't anything more than people need to be safe, and we need to keep people healthy. And so when politics start getting involved, I think a lot of people tune that out. And you know, this is the time where we really need in-depth, factual, accurate reporting that's authentic, that's genuine. You know, and of course, we have to hold people accountable. And I look for that accountability in reporting. But, you know, it has to be based in fact.
I was going to say that I know what you mean about trying to get like the whole view of all the different, you know, news outlets, because if you listen to one, you know, I'm a pretty middle of the road guy. I think I'm sensible in terms of different things, but well, I guess everybody thinks they're sensible, but you know, whatever. But just if you listen to one, you get something that's way too critical of the powers that be, and then you listen to another, it's way too bombastic and I don't want to say propaganda, but like way pro about how certain things are. So I see what you mean about wanting to put the puzzle together. I think that's a great way to put it.
Yeah, and you know what the reality is that when you're watching or listening or reading to one source, when you're limited to one source, you're not really getting all of the news. So if you're an actual news consumer, you want to be able to kind of digest everything and then be able to form an educated opinion.
And I appreciate more than ever the integrity of people in the news and people in the media, despite everything that's being thrown at you from any different, you know, angle or other outlet, etc. Just sticking to the facts and not reacting to some people that may think that whatever, they don't like your haircut, whatever it is. But honestly, I think that, you know, I've been super impressed, especially with you, and you know how I feel about you, and I've mentioned it before publicly. You know, I think that you're doing a fantastic job of staying strong and staying honest and being true to what you are and who you are, and also having a human element. And watching you these past couple of weeks, or almost a month, I guess now, has felt like I've been in your living room, and you're telling me facts. And I think there's nothing more personal and nothing more special than that. And the fact that you're giving me the news, you're giving us what's real, the facts, and you're also doing it from your own couch, basically. I think there's nothing better than that. And I actually don't want to see you go back into the studio yet, because I'm really enjoying the realness of watching you and everyone else. You know, the other TV stations and the other news stations, and even the radio stations that are doing things remotely. It's cool knowing that their kids are in the background, or their boyfriends or girlfriends or husbands or wives are making pancakes across the room. It feels so much more real to me. Yeah. And I love that. And you can't look at anybody that's doing that and say that anything is anything less than genuine.
And I really appreciate you saying that. And the one thing that I've kind of, you know, I'm not a talking head, and I don't think anybody in this, you know, in this market is. I think we're your neighbors. We're here. We're among you, and we want to do the best for our community. You know, but I've decided that I'm not wearing a shirt and tie sitting in my living room anchoring the news, because I would look ridiculous sitting on a piano bench in front of the chair against the blue wall with my bookcase behind me. Like, how ridiculous would that be? So today I wore a sweater with this t-shirt. You know, and at the end of the day, if it damages my credibility because somebody doesn't think that I'm credible for not wearing a suit and tie, I would hate for that to happen, but the reality is that I think at the end of the day, we all realize that we're all just doing a job here. And we're all just trying to get by.
I haven't worn a tie in a very long time, and I think I'm doing okay. So I think you're. It's about time, really. You lose the tie.
Yeah, for sure. I have a collar allergy, so this is about as a black shirt. Maybe if it was plain, that'd be about as dressed up as I like to get. But,
I love it.
So before we let you go, I have a quick question.
Sure.
Anybody you want to shout out? Anybody that you think is just killing it? Anybody you think is doing a great job for whatever purpose that they serve and whatever business that they're in? Anybody you want to, kind of give credit to while you have the forum of all the dozens of listeners we have?
We need to thank so many people. There are hardworking healthcare professionals everywhere across the board. And it's, it's beyond the hospitals too. It's the EMTs, the firefighters, the police officers, Mercy Flight. I mean, the dispatchers behind the scenes. I mean, they're all working to keep people safe. It's the small business owners who are, making sure that they can stay open and afloat, or they're hiring somebody who's been laid off. The small business owners who are struggling right now, but are trying to keep their doors open to make sure that they come out and finding new ways to keep themselves relevant. These people, we're all trying to get through this, and we're getting through it together. But the idea is that everyone's having to come up with something new. And I think that is the coolest part. And, the governor has said this, and whether you like him or not, it doesn't matter. This is all about reimagining what the future looks like. And I think that when we're all working together to try and figure out what that is, we're going to come out bigger and better at the end.
Yeah, I think you're right. And I find it very ironic that we're all in this together separately, physically separate, but for me, it just makes it feel more like when this is all finally over, whatever that looks like, people are going to enjoy hugs more. They're going to enjoy, I don't know if handshakes are ever going to be a thing anymore, but they're going to enjoy, each other's company. I think, and let's not take it for granted, but Ed, I just want to say thank you for joining us. Thank you for taking part in this. It's been insightful, and I appreciate you sharing your experiences with us and with, as Matt said, our dozens of listeners.
Listen,
Count's going up. It's going up.
I appreciate both of you, and Dell and Matt, you guys are doing great work, and we need people like you to really continue to promote positivity, and that's what we want to hear. So thank you guys both too.
Awesome. Thank you, Ed.